Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. So today I want to go back to my roots, to the very thing that first got me into this subject, that being the many anomalies on our moon. The moon has always been a fascination to me, from the structures on it to the many landings by our astronauts. Ever since the first Apollo moon landings began, and in the footage and photographs from each mission since, we've seen strange anomalies and evidence hinting that we are not alone on this planet, nor were the astronauts alone on their way from this tiny blue marble and all the way up to their arrival to our mysterious lunar neighbor. Ominous unknown objects captured on the 16mm DAC film footage as astronauts pointed their cameras out of the porthole windows of the orbiter, where objects have been recorded flying down towards the moon craters miles below, or to the glowing white objects seen eerily passing under it as they got closer to the surface. You've also seen on Secure Team the strange and mysterious structures or buildings on the moon's surface, things that look like possible ruins or that were constructed by something. We've seen evidence that while on the lunar surface during their moonwalks, the astronauts seem to have been watched by strange things hovering above them in the distance. Another presence, if you will, there with them. Take for instance the images that you've been seeing here. These are photographs snapped by an astronaut during one of the Apollo 14 moonwalks. And as we sequence through these original NASA photographs you can still find online, and as the astronaut turns around and walks and snaps a photo every 20 seconds or so, in some of these photos we can see a distinct blue glowing UFO sitting in the dark skies in the distance. In some images it's not there, but in others the object is unmistakable. And it's not just a blue light as it seems, or some of you may thought, but when seen up close, and as analyzed by other UFO researchers in the past, the blue glow suddenly gives way to an obvious, solid, unidentified structure or craft. A UFO in the truest sense of the word, with an unusual form, not of ours, suspended in the skies and moving through photos as the astronauts walk and do their experiments, and even while in space en route to the moon, also seen in photographs, the same blue glowing mystery objects, tagging along through space, always in the distance, as seen here. So whatever these objects were, they seemed to be watching throughout the entirety of the mission, the astronauts likely noticing them eventually, but saying nothing. Yet in most of these moon missions, and afterwards back on Earth, the astronauts really didn't need to say what they saw on the moon, for you could read it in their cold, nervous gaze during the press conferences when they would be answering reporters' questions with a look not of happiness and glee, but a look as if they had seen something up there on our moon, something that concerned them, something that they knew that they could never reveal to the public. And now I want to get to two new findings here on the channel. One of them caught in a photograph during the Apollo 15 mission moonwalk, and another amazing one that was caught down on the moon's surface taken via satellite. So to start off, here is an iconic photo showing Alan Shepard posing with the American flag. At first you may see nothing, but looks can be deceiving, and as I zoom in far beyond and into the distance behind the astronaut, right near the moon's horizon line, we see yet another oddly shaped blue-colored UFO. A blue UFO that is eerily reminiscent of the photographs you saw just a second ago, albeit this blue UFO does not contain the same bright blue haze of light around it. It definitely is a structure. It has light and shadow to it, and as we change the perspective here, some could say that this is an L-shaped object, but to me it almost looks as if we're seeing a possible V-shape or C-shaped object that is flying at an angle and away from the camera. as if we took the letter V or the letter U, made it three-dimensional, and then flipped it as if we were looking up at it from the bottom. And you can actually start to see that three-dimensional shape when you look at the lighting and the shadow, to where it very well could be more of a C-shaped object that curves around. But nonetheless, very interesting finding in a very iconic photograph. And like I've said before, NASA tends to leave these things in, or they simply don't see them, because if you're just looking at this image all the way zoomed out, you would never spot it, but it's there, lingering in the distance. And so I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. The photo is everywhere, and this is actually one of the actual original photo scans. This is not an image glitch. They were using actual camera reels and film footage when they were on the moon. And in more recent versions of a lot of these photographs, anomalies like these you will find to be gone, airbrushed out, painted over black to blend in with the sky. But there are places online, as well as my own system, where I have downloaded thousands of original image scans that were not tampered with, or not tampered with enough to where these anomalies and UFOs still exist. So tell me what you guys think. What could these mystery blue objects be? In my opinion, the astronauts were definitely being watched. They definitely were not alone. Now, on to the other very interesting, perhaps massive discovery found on Google Earth that I wanted you guys to see, and I'll put the coordinates to this down below. You can download Google Earth Pro, go to Google Moon, put in the coordinates, and we were just showing you a photo from Apollo 15, and when I discovered this, it amazed me, and you're about to see why as we zoom in here. So the structure, or what I believe to be a structure, discovered on the top of a hill, directly in the center, almost dead center of this hill, I found to be located just a mile or two away from the Apollo 15 landing site where the astronauts were walking. And as we go over near the Eridus crater, you may notice it already, but you'll start to see a little white speck on this hill next to Eridus crater, which in my opinion, and in others that have seen this, could very well be some sort of alien base, or a base that we put there, or some sort of ancient ruin. But here we are, and this is indeed at the top of a hill. And the first thing I want you to notice is, aside from being a giant white square that looks totally out of place, and despite the object being at the very top of a hill that overlooks the Apollo 15 landing site, what's most important is that this object has light and shadow to it. Those are the two things that will allow you to know if something is a three-dimensional object. It will always have light, and it will always cast shadow. So I'm giving you a look around the 3D terrain here. This is the actual terrain of the moon, where you can see that this large square building that measured comes out to be about the size of a Walmart, around 400 feet across, just as if you were on Google Earth looking down at one of the white roofs of any large square building that sits low to the ground, like a Walmart or any other one-story building. That is the size that we're looking at. And as I'm showing you these enhanced photos here, where I've done nothing except bring up the contrast a little bit and bring down the brightness, because as I've also said, and as has been admitted before by former image or photograph techs that worked for NASA, virtually all photographs of the moon, from satellite imagery to the film footage or photographs taken by the astronauts above the moon and down on it, they would always be whitewashed, where they would crank down the contrast and up the brightness, virtually washing out almost all of the detail if you're just looking at the images as they are, and you would think that nothing is there. But I've shown that that is far from the truth here on the channel, and that in film footage and photographs snapped by astronauts, that once you bring that true contrast back to the photo and see what is actually there on the surface, we begin to see the many mysterious things that are down there that are indeed casting shadows. And so you're seeing this large building here that, because it's a satellite image, we're seeing it from basically right above it. I would say maybe a little bit to the side, because if you'll notice here, there are also, besides a little bit of shadow on the roof of this thing, which tells me that the roof either dips down or rises up at a certain point, there's also a distinct shadow being cast by this building down onto the lunar surface on one side. Not to mention the fact that there are two distinct, we will just call them arms, or building extensions, garages, whatever you want to call them. Two distinct arms that are sticking out of the edge of this building. One is just a little bit more distinct than the other, but they are both there. They look like some sort of attachments to the solid building. And this could be a craft hovering right above the lunar surface because the shadow is so close to it. But to me, it looks like a building sitting at the top of this giant hill that is overlooking the Apollo 15 landing site. It's almost too much of a coincidence, if you ask me. And as I said, in measuring it, it came to around 380 plus feet to 400 feet, which is about the size of your average Walmart. And they look just like this, which I can show you here in a comparison photograph just to give you guys an idea of how long or large this thing is. And so as I'm changing the angle here, and you can truly see now just how massive this crater behind this hill is, and the way that it is sitting right at the top. And here's another size reference. This is a 380 plus foot yacht. And I did a Google search for it, and it's the exact measurement that I got from Google Earth of this building or base. And so whatever this building or base is, the size of it fits in regards to the size of a human being or an alien being, and the size of a large hangar or building that we would use that would be big enough for us to have. So it's the perfect size for a base. So just moving around here, giving you angles, and I found some other interesting things right near this structure. And as we zoom back here, I mean, just look at this. Straight shot from this, what we'll call the hilltop base, straight shot right over to the Apollo 15 landing site. Watch as we float over this mysterious hill object, as if we were orbiting the moon in the capsule, as we float over towards the Apollo 15 landing site and reach it. And as we spin around here, there we are, and it's just a perfect spot for a base, potentially alien, that could be placed to observe the Apollo 15 site. And not only that, this base could have very well already been there, which is why we chose this exact spot to land for the Apollo 15 moon mission. And I know for a fact that there were secret EVAs that were done on the moon that were not shown to the public, wherein which the astronauts took the moon buggy and traveled to certain areas around the landing spot that were not shown to the public at the time, but that have been mentioned and discovered in the official transcripts from these missions. And so maybe the reason for the Apollo 15 mission was for us to attempt to land somewhere near this large white structure. And at that time, landing on the moon was not an exact science, and typically they would overshoot the area that they would land at and be forced to simply sit the lander down wherever it was safest. And so this is what the astronauts were seeing while on the moon, and just over these mountain ranges is our mystery base. Now, going to one other strange thing I noticed near this hill was a smaller crater, albeit still much bigger than the base. And I noticed what looked like a strange object coming out of it. I'm not so sure it's even a crater, but more like some sort of pipe that is simply coming up out of the lunar soil that seems to be casting a shadow. So imagine if you had a stick or a pipe coming out of the lunar soil at the base of this large mountain where this large square structure is, and here I've put some color over the object where above you can actually see the object and you can see the sunlight hitting the top of it, and then the sides of it and the bottom are in shadow, and then you can see the actual shadow being cast by this sort of tube or exhaust or cigar shaped object cast down onto the soil below it. So there's the object, and there is the shadow below it. So yeah, it definitely looks strange to me, and as I show you different angles of it here, it sticks out. And when we zoom out here, it doesn't look like other craters. It looks more like something that has been placed there at the base of this large hill overlooking the Apollo 15 landing site. So that's it, guys. Tell me what you think. With the shadows being cast down on the surface, these arms extending out from it, the shadow or possible lunar dust that's on top of the roof here. This does not look like a glitch to me. Glitches do not have shadows, and sadly, we only got the bird's eye view looking down at it. And with that, guys, tell me what you think. I love studying the anomalies on our moon. Not only that, but the moon itself and the many strange things about our moon that make it unlike any other moon in our entire solar system. If you could leave a like and a comment so we can appease the YouTube algorithm so that it will show my videos to more people and it will start to notify more subscribers who hardly ever get any notifications when I post a new video. So love you guys, stay tuned, stay safe, and I'll see you back in just a bit.